Hello, my name is Rudo Kemper, a programs lead with the nonprofit organization Digital Democracy, and I am delighted to be participating in MozFest 2022. In this lightning talk, I will be sharing how to digitize place-based oral histories using Terrastories, an open source application co-designed with indigenous communities across the world. To get started, I would like to briefly share with you how and why a team of volunteer geographers and open source developers decided to build Terrastories. So 7 years ago, in the country of Suriname in South America, an Afro-descendant forest community known as the Matawai decided to start mapping their lands. The Matawai wanted to have a comprehensive map of their territory to help them in dealings with outsiders like the government and industrial companies who wanted to conduct extractive activities on their land. Throughout the mapping process, the Matawai mapped over 700 place names, and in working with the community elders to map those places, a tremendous amount of storytelling about those places came to the fore. The Matawai settled in this landscape over 300 years ago, and today's elders carry with them a rich tapestry of memories and oral histories about the first time that their ancestors had arrived there. However, today, this living memory had become more and more difficult to transfer to younger generations, and many of the younger community members involved in the mapping work were really just hearing these stories for the very first time. And as they listened to the elders share these stories for the first time in a long time, which was awoken, by this mapping process, the younger Matawai were amazed and spellbound. The oral histories related where they come from as a people and their roots, and what the territory means to them as a people, which suddenly transformed their daily surroundings into a rich and storied landscape. Together with the Amazon Conservation Team, an NGO that was helping them with the mapping, the Matawai were inspired by this, and they started to record the stories of the elders. They also planted the idea of a digital application that would simultaneously safeguard these most precious oral histories and make it fun and engaging for young community members to learn about their history and ancestral lands. A team of volunteer open source developers called Ruby for Good heard about this call for action, and in 2018, they decided to lay the foundation for an open source application that ties together maps and recorded stories, and which can work entirely offline in the rainforest where the Matawai live. And so Terrastories was born. So how does it work? A short demo. At its core, Terrastories is composed of an interactive map and a sidebar with stories. The interactive map can be customized. What you're seeing here is a simple satellite imagery map that was prepared for a training session at the Indigenous Mapping Workshop last year with some Indigenous community data from Native Land Digital and then submissions by workshop participants. On top of the map are these green place markers, which are places that are featured in one or more stories. And you can actually click on these to open up a pop-up with more information about that place. And the sidebar will filter to only show stories that are associated with that place. And from there, you can watch the videos, you can listen to the audio recordings, whatever the story content may be. You can also explore the sidebar, the stories. And once you've explored the content, you can press on one of the story cards to see where it took place on the map or which places are associated with it. It will zoom to those places and bring them to the fore. And you can also filter by different categories, including region, speaker, type of place, where you can include your own custom taxonomies about the different places and stories. Here's a summary of some of the core features of Terrastories. It is an interactive mapping app with a sidebar of stories related to places on the map, as you just saw. You can set up custom taxonomy filters to sort through the different stories and places. The map can be customized and it works both entirely offline as well as online. Data sovereignty is one of our core values. And one way you can control who has access to the Terrastories map and stories is by setting permissions for viewing and editing protected stories. Terrastories works on any computer or mobile device because you can load the application through the browser, again, whether you are online or offline. And the application is free and open source, almost entirely volunteer built. We've been lucky to have had contributions by over 70 people since we started in 2018, and that's just on GitHub. So since that time that we started to build Terrastories with the Matawai and Suriname, more communities have started to use Terrastories. and there are now several hands-on practical guides and resources available. This includes this methodology guide here on how to conduct a community-based participatory mapping and storytelling project, which was published by the organization ACT, based on their work with the Matawai, as well as indigenous communities in Brazil and in Colombia. This guide here contains both a step-by-step methodology for documenting place-based oral histories, as well as tips and best practices for recording in the field. There's also several guides and case studies on Terrastories available on the Earth Defenders Toolkit, which is a new platform that provides hands-on guides, community case studies, and practical information about digital tools for the direct benefit of communities looking to take action. On the Earth Defenders Toolkit, there's a featured tool guide on Terrastories illustrating the various features and use cases. And there's also a case study on the Matawai and the process that they followed to digitize their place-based oral histories. If you're interested in using Terrastories, we at Digital Democracy, as well as the Terrastories Stewards team, would be delighted to follow up with you. Check out the Terrastories website at www.terrastories.io to consult various resources, including tutorials, install guides, video recordings of workshops, and case studies, and also ways of reaching out to us if you would like to use our online server. And all of the resources that I shared in this lightning talk are available on the website, including a recording of the Indigenous Mapping Workshop demo that we gave last year. If you would like to contribute to Terrastories in any way, we would absolutely love to hear from you. Terrastories is a mostly volunteer-run project, so there are numerous ways to get involved. If you're a developer, you can either check out our open issues on GitHub or join the Dev Stewards team to help guide the roadmap and review PRs. We could also use help getting communities onboarded with using Terrastories when they reach out to us. And just lastly, we could use help keeping the lights on. So if you would like to sponsor us or even get us in touch with a potential donor, there's information for how to do so on the Terrastories website as well. And with that, I'd like to thank you for watching this lightning talk. And if you'd like to reach out to me, you can do so at rkemper@digitaldemocracy.org. Or you can find me on Twitter at Rudo Kemper. Thanks very much.